days away. So just chin up, all right, and do your best. Thank you, though, for staying with us. And I'm sure that your staying on this frequency has been worth your while, listening to the amazing conversation from when we started with the Morning Crossfire show up until when Aswad left the studio, the Sunnyside show. Well, my name is Kimberly. The Oracle, the Digital Oracle, OTF, the Fellow, Ochanya One, Madam Speaker, and I'll be your host for the next, say, about 4 hours, because usually I'm here, even when I sign off at 6:30, I'm here till 7 to ensure that you have a fantastic time. And the sports team will be here at 7 for Football Frenzy, which will take us to about 10-ish before Somi comes in for Talk Night with Somi. So there will be a whole lot to look at. Talking about things to look at, just before we take our gaze towards what's happening between the US and China in terms of their trade tariff war that is going on, because that's a lot of that's what even the media is calling it on the international scene. It's a war, it's a face-off, because the tariff continues to go up every single time. Well, let's the FCT minister and the Rivers State, just to clear, I mean, there was a story that made the round earlier on that the sole administrator of Rivers State invited the suspended governor to come answer some questions, and it was put out like an authoritative statement signed by some individual and made the round on social media. It's apparently has been called out as a fake news, to disregard that completely, because a lot of people were asking the question like, is this man does he have the power to summon? Because that's what it feels like. Apparently, that is not the situation. And yes, Dr. Majeed is here. Dr. Majeed is here, comfortably seated. Dr. Majeed, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Oracle.
Yes.
It's good to be here today.
Indeed. Thank you so much for making out time in spite of your busy schedule. Dr. Majeed is a researcher. He's a columnist, and he's the tech team lead of Luke Stera Leadership Foundation. And we do the midweek special with him, where we take a look at some of the big stories from the week or the day or issues in Nigeria, and take our time to dissect them properly. Would kind of like pay attention also to what's happening with the US-China tariff war. We'll get his perspective on that. But just before we head out, the minister of the FCT, Yusuf Wike, says the suspended governor of Rivers State has not apologized to him to consider forgiving him. And according to him, for there to be forgiveness, the person who did wrong must first acknowledge and seek forgiveness. The minister, speaking through his media aide, Larry Olayinka, was reacting to the call by Niger Delta ex-militant leader, High Chief Government Kpemu Polo, popularly known as Tom Polo, who called on him to forgive Fubara, his estranged political godson. Tombolo, while speaking on the Rivers State crisis in a statement, emphasized the need for restraint and unity and urged Wike to set aside his anger for the greater good. And just like I would not accept rebellion from my son, I will also not cause more problem. Wike is angry, but he has to bring his temper down for the good of all. He would have a dialogue and resolve all lingering issues. And again, Fubara will return to his seat, Tombolo said. And asking for his response to the call by Tombolo, Wike, through his aide, says there's no offense. It is when someone is offended, you personally, that you're talking about the person seeking forgiveness. And as Christian, let's not assume that Fubara has offended the minister. Besides, he's not come out for forgiveness. So we're still skirting around what the issue is. There's still a lot of dance going on as to, he has not wronged me, he has not come for forgiveness, while his sole administrator is managing the place for 6 months. And I know it was a question I asked you, Dr. Majeed, to saying, will this in any way fix the real issue that brought all the political tension? Having a sole administrator, I mean, his job is not to call the warring party and say, oh yeah, come, I have limited time, what's your problem? Say sorry. Everybody resolve it. That's not his job. He's to manage the affairs of the state, and he's already, building a structure that is convenient for him to operate as the sole administrator, which I remember we brought up last week, and you shared where you had your bit of reservation around that. I think it was you, Dr. Majeed. We did talk about this, or somebody else.
We've not talked about it.
All right, then. So it would be a good opportunity to look at that, because, yes. I mean, he's setting his local government administrators in place. He's putting his own structures in place. He had his own bit, even with MBA, when they say we are taking our conference somewhere, and he said, return our money if you're taking it somewhere. So there's so much going on, but is all of this side drama going to fix the real issue that brought to a state of emergency in the first instance. It doesn't look like we're addressing that part. It just feels as if, okay, this man will come for 6 months. After that time, everybody go on settle, then you come back. But I don't think that's going to happen.
It's a very complicated issue, really, because what is happening in Rivers is very abnormal in the sense that the introduction of the state of emergency, which will now include, or which includes anyway, the suspension of an elected governor and an elected assembly, has made it very abnormal. Normally, we know that those who helped to bring people into power, who become godfathers, will usually have problems with their supposed godsons. And it continues largely within the political space, try to outmaneuver each other. If you can defeat the godson in the next election, why not? If you can deny him ticket, why not? The godson can destroy you, and so be it, and all of that. It's like a playbook from the jungle where the Lion King, we usually grew up and torpedo the previous Lion King, chase him out of the pride, and the one will roam about in the forest, start eating grass until he dies. So that has been the typical scenario of such cases of godfather-godson relationship in Nigeria. But something was thrown into the mix that has made it very complicated. And what is that? The introduction of an angle. This angle of state of emergency. First, it is my candid opinion that there was nothing in Rivers that warranted state of emergency. Nothing at all. Even though the president has powers to declare state of emergency, when there's a security challenge, I do not think he has powers to declare state of emergency where there's a political disagreement between a godson and a godfather. Don't think so. Nothing for me. There was nothing. And you can see that there's not happening in Rivers to warrant that. Secondly, even if the president has powers to declare state of emergency, which he has anyway in the Constitution, now does this power include or extend or can be expanded to include the suspension of an elected governor? I thought we have actually settled that matter long ago. Obasanjo did it during his own time, but when Jonathan had reason to declare state of emergency in a state like Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, because of the Boko Haram insurgency, in fact, that was a good reason to have done so. He did that without suspending the elected structure, the democratic elected structure. And we thought we had gone beyond that phase because many people had criticized Obasanjo for doing what he did in Plateau and in Ekiti. For saying, you can declare state of emergency, but you cannot suspend an elected governor. That the Constitution does not give you such powers. Even though there are arguments about the president being given powers to carry out extraordinary measures to restore order. Extraordinary here means, in my opinion, although the matter before the Supreme Court, but for me, it aligns with those who believe that it is not constitutional. And extraordinary here cannot mean to do the abnormal. Extraordinary here simply means deployment of extra hands to solve a problem. For example, a state can have police posts, but these police posts are actually overrun by probably bandits or militants to such an extent that the police can no longer function. A state of emergency here simply means for the president to declare deployment of troops. That's what it means. Because the governor cannot deploy troops, so the president only can deploy troops. So, and it's just to carry out any security measure at all that is beyond the ordinary, including curfews, including restriction of movement, including even arresting people without necessarily going for warrant, for instance. Something like that, so as to, contain, you can deploy, even that can be questioned, but anyway, under emergency, it can be tolerated to some extent. But to remove an elected governor, I think it's a no-no for me. And I hope and pray the Supreme Court will do the needful, because we cannot have a law that empowers the president to remove an elected governor under whatever pretext. We can see what happened in Rivers now. What is the insecurity in Rivers that requires this? Now, in place to go, you have the raiding security. The president is telling the governor to go and take charge, rather than removing him, quote and unquote, to save lives. So it tells you that it was politically motivated. So that has made it very complicated. For me, that was simply done to teach Fubara a lesson, not to disobey his law for next time. And why is this so? You see, the president of Nation Wiki played a very vital role. Many people may not know. They think that all of the roles that Wiki played was voting against the PDP through the G5 governors. It went far beyond that. Wiki played certain fundamental roles without which the president wouldn't have been president today. That is the fact. So they are too numerous for me to mention here, but I can assure you he went extra mile. extra at the risk of his own life. Because if, for instance, if it had gone wrong and Atiku had won, I wonder where Wike would have been today, if you know what I mean. So he did that. He went out of his way. Let me just give you one example of such things he did. There are reports, particularly by the BBC and Premium Times, that will be one River State media reports.
I mean, we even saw the one from Yaiga to telling you this is not consistent with what we have.
No, but it was declared for Tinubu, right? Good. Bet for that intervention by Wike, the 2020 election would have had a different picture, where Obi would have won 13 states, FCT inclusive, and the supposed winner would have won only 11 states. Now tell me, how are you going to declare somebody winner who won only 11 states against somebody who won 13 states, including important states like Abuja, FCT, Lagos, and Rivers? How are you going to explain that to anybody? So the fact that Rivers was added to the APC state tally then made it 12 states apiece. Because won one Kano. So it made it even easier to declare the president winner. I'm saying, if this had happened, I wonder how INEC would have been a serious. Those who believe the elections were rigged would have really had so many things to point to the street. It would have really delegitimized. So this intervention, this was one in so many other interventions that Wike did. I also am aware how Wike supported groups in other states to vote for either Obi or Tinubu. In that undermine Atiku, he did a lot without taking a dime from the president.
Well, he didn't shy from the fact that he was anti the PDP, even though he was there with the G5 and all of that.
Yes, and he did it without collecting a dime. This is a fact. One dime from the campaign council of the APC. He said he was doing it for his own political survival. He needed to prove a point. And it worked out for him. Tinubu won. Now, Tinubu himself is the first president since 1999, since the Fourth Republic, that is himself a godfather. Wicked type kind of godfather. That is a typical Nigerian politician who was governor for 8 years and installed a successor, and has managed to install successive governors in Lagos. So Tinubu, unlike a Buhari, unlike a Yar'Adua, unlike a Jonathan, understands the franchise of godfatherism in Nigeria. He understands what it means to install a governor. He understands what it means for that governor to be either loyal or disloyal. He understands. So he's in sympathy with the fellow godfather like Wike. So he brings a case of a godson trying to assert himself against the godfather to a judge like Tinubu. Naturally, just like in America, you have conservative judges and liberal judges. Naturally, Tinubu would naturally take side with the person, the godfather, because he sees that, because he's in solidarity. And so, to me, to teach this godson the lesson, and probably to teach other godsons lessons, not to disobey godfathers like them, this was done to punish Fubara. Now, I have reservations about Fubara's conduct. I've said it severally. I've said it too that, look, if I don't want to be a loyal godson, I won't accept the benevolence of a godfather. It's as simple as that.
Well, it's interesting that you bring in this up, because I've had a lot of argument also from some minds who say it favored him even into coming in, the Fubara himself. It was all of the political calculation.
We came made Fubara governor.
He was one of those governors who was rarely heard.
I didn't hear him until he became governor.
Ododo of Kogi State, His Excellency, were those people.
I didn't hear him until he became governor.
Yeah.
It was Wike I was hearing all the campaign ground. Fubara would sit down or stand, and Wike would do the campaigning. Wike brought him to power. When he said this, people say about the people, I said, no, why would he vote for Wike? Vote for Fubara. Wike spent the money to get people to vote for him. If you ever collected 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 to vote for Fubara, you didn't vote for Fubara, you sold your vote. Somebody paid for it.
But there's also a danger in this to saying, how do we fix this? Because you always have people who would bring people, plant them in, and then want to control the affairs of the state.
I like the question you just asked. The solution is there. Like I would say, what we've got described is the ugly side of the Nigerian politics. It does not make it, it's not the ideal, it's not what we want to be as a nation. Now, you asked a very important question. The solution to this problem is not to take side with Fubara against Wike. We are making a mistake. And that's the mistake people of Rivers have been making. No. Fubara is not innocent of all of this. Fubara is part of this system. The only thing is, unfortunately for him, it's very difficult to fight a sitting governor once you made him. But Wike became governor himself after being governor. As Associate Minister, Wike is governor, effectively. So, what reverse allocation could do, only one plot of land, one allocation of plot of land in Abuja can counter it too. So, Wike has resources to continue, as though he was still a governor, to fight a governor that is not even, that appears very naive too about this whole thing. So Fubara didn't know how to fight. He didn't know what to do. He wanted to fight. He didn't know to go about it, and he was overwhelmed by Wike, who is still a governor, associate minister, and a powerful one at that. Now, how do we solve this problem? I have always recommended for the reverse people the Anambra option. Stop this support for Fubara or Wike. You are wasting your time. You are not ready to rescue your state. Do what people of Anambra did in 2003.
Which is?
You see, in 1999, Godfathers came together and installed Mbadiniju as governor of Anambra State. And in trying to satisfy the Godfathers, Mbadiniju ended up not being able to pay salaries for how many years? Social services broke down. Anambra was like the worst it has ever been. The people of Anambra identified that this Godfather problem in PDP is a problem for the state. And what did they do? They came together. They defied the dollar reign, the naira reign from the Godfathers in PDP, the Obas and co. They came together and supported one party called APGA. I said, this party is like our own party now. This is like our native party. And the motto is, do not forsake your own brother. There was a native kind of appeal to that party. The Ojukwu being the symbol of the Igbo nation, the father of modern day Igbo nation, weighed behind that party, contested as a presidential candidate, and gave the party that support. Now, Anambra people developed the discipline enough to vote for P2B in 2003 against PDP. The election was rigged, no doubt, but because they voted, evidence was abound. So Obi was able to go to court and got his mandate. You will observe that since 2003, and of course 2005 when Obi became governor, was declared governor, Anambra has put paid to PDP influence when it comes to governorship till this moment. So Obi finished and brought in Obiano. Yes, he brought Obiano in, but he was careful not to put himself as a godfather. He brought Obiano based on Obiano's personality and the fact that there was need to also have some level of rotation among the three senatorial districts. So Anambra North was to produce the next governor because he is from Central. Yeah. He's been governor for 8 years. Ngige that was from Central was governor for 2 years plus. So he developed an agenda. And because Obi led the state satisfactorily, he was able to correct some of the imbalances that the first 4 years of PDP caused to the state. The people trusted him enough to say, okay, you bought a banker, blah, 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 okay, we'll vote for him. They voted for Obiano. Even though Ngige came in from ACN, Ngige too was a very strong contender because Ngige, in the 2.5 years he was governor, proved his mettle too. He was able to prove that without this distraction of the Godfathers, I can actually do well. So he carried out massive infrastructural development in the state. So people remembered him for that. So it was like a contestation between ACN, quote unquote, dancing as a Yoruba party, and APGA as a Igbo party. So Obiano came ahead of Ngige, but PDP came last. You see how they've relegated PDP in Anambra? Obiano ruled for 8 years. Take it or leave it. He was able to rule in a manner that sustained some level of good governance and had certain things to show tangibly after 8 years. Now, P2B fell out with Obiano, right? But he kept quiet. It didn't come disturbing him. He went to PDP and brought a candidate to challenge Obiano. But Anambra people put P2B to where he belonged to say, we say we don't want Godfathers. Allow Obiano to do his government. If you brought him in, we voted for him. So you cannot come and now want to, no, you can't do that. So they defeated his candidate in PDP and kept the PDP at bay and voted for Obiano for second term. Obiano continued for 8 years. Obiano himself read the tea leaves properly. So for APGA to continue to dominate that state, what he did, he went to bring a Soludo. Whether I like it or not, Soludo has some of the best credentials anybody can parade when you are campaigning for public office. He's achieved, he has solid track record to show. So Obiano brought him in now. Right platform, right candidate. Don't forget that the same Soludo contested other PDP against Obi in the second term, but he came because PDP was still a party in that state after governorship is concerned. So what did Anambra people do with a Soludo, Abga? So they feel that this platform is sanitized enough that can allow this guy with all these good credentials to work. Unlike the PDP, those guys that bought him, they wouldn't allow him to work and all of that. And they don't want their state to be messed up. Obiado handed over to Soludo. If you notice, Obiado disappeared from the radar since then. No noise, no talk, no quarrel. Because Obiado understand that Anambra people, the same way they supported him against even Obi, when they wanted to change him second term, they don't want a godfather to control their governor. They want it to be social contact between the people, as Anambra people, and the government. So he has stayed clear largely. Now, recently I saw Soludo naming a road after him. It means Soludo is doing his own thing. Soludo is in charge of his own government. And 3 years later, Soludo has been able to show certain tangible achievements. One thing that is consistent throughout the Abga is that all Abga governors from Obi to Soludo now are able to maintain basic services to Anambra people. Now, if you look at Soludo, he doesn't have an excuse to fail. No godfather. Right? Soludo himself brought a lot of simplicity, has demystified the office of the governor. Look at Soludo's dressings. Have you noticed how simply Soludo dresses? He wears native woven clothes, shirts, and he drives an innocent vehicle, and he flies commercial airlines.
I've not paid attention to that.
Because he knows that you can't blow this people's money. These people, he knows why he was voted. Now, he's done well. It is looking clearly that, well, I may not be a shooter, but I think he may be able to win the second time. I think so, from the feelers I'm getting. Rivers people must do this, which Anambra people have done as far as 2003. They must look beyond Fubara, Wiki, and all those godsons of Peter Odili. The Odili political dynasty, they all belong to it. You must, as a people, as educated as you people are, as sophisticated as you people are, stop shouting as one up and down. Stop making us one of these parties that don't have your interest at heart. Go and look for an Omoluabi Riverian, a River State man that you know has impeccable integrity, unimpeachable antecedents in public service. They are abound everywhere. Go and bring such a person. Look beyond the monies that will come from other APC or PDP. Look beyond it. Do what you guys did in Abga. Vote for someone who does not give shishi. And let us know that we voted for you because we want to rescue our state. Until first people are ready to do this, even if Fubara has succeeded against Wiki, he would have become a governor on his own too. He would have brought somebody to succeed him, and insist the person does what he. So it would have been in perpetual crisis as it has been since 1999. So it was people stop all this solidarity between the two factions because you are not there. Most of them did certain things that resulted into an indictment for Fubara as accountant general. I know he was chasing up and down. There was something that him and his dad did. At that point, Now, you are not there to when this guy started this governorship. You don't know what they agreed between themselves. And let me say this, even among thieves and bandits, you must have some level of honor. If we go and calculate people and we pay the ransom, let us share according to how we agreed before we went to the field. Now, but if you don't want bandits...
Well, what if it's becoming preposterous? Because the impression we're getting is the demand that he's coming from his predecessor.
Put an end to banditry. So put an end to the political banditry in Rivers by doing what Anambra people did. I'll give you a clear example, Anambra people. So if you look at the government from Anambra, there is steady progress. That's why Anobi was able to emerge as a frontliner in the last election because of his antecedent in Anambra. Yes. If Soludo continues the way he's going now, Soludo is even going as far as doing kind of social engineering. Saying, look, these okite things that some people are doing on social media and other rituals is now making their young men to seek wealth without enterprise. And that there are too many of their children in prisons all over the world because they believe in some of this nonsense and blah, blah, blah. He's going that far to kind of carry out a social rebate of Anambra State. That is quality leadership. He may have his downside, I don't know, but I'm saying what I've seen, and I appreciate this. We've seen him show us how he's revamping some slums, some of the roads he's constructed, and the question about his road construction.
The thing is, if you have control over your government and over the policies and programs, you see it a bit more.
If they are people, the people themselves give you their mandate free of charge. Look, if I have to pay you to vote for me, if I have to procure from the PDP massive amount of money to procure one ticket, one form only for my preferred candidate, and get them to sell form to another person, you know that there's trouble. If I now go around, I'm the one going around campaigning for this same person. Oh, I'm not the one that wants to be governor. He's the one that wants to be governor, but I was the one who did all of the campaigning. I also got legal team to defend his mandate. When they wanted to go and inspect INEC materials by APC, I sent my people there to go and block them. Look, this is not heading for anything, but the beneficiaries of the system, it was standing on a moral quicksand to claim victim. That's why I don't have sympathy for Fubara. But I have sympathy for the Rivers people. I'm telling the Rivers people, do what Anambra people did. The next election is an opportunity. Don't vote anybody within this circle anymore. Go and look for somebody and vote for that person. Defy these people. Turn your backs on them. But if you're not disciplined enough and you go and collect their money, don't come and complain to me that somebody wants to be godfather. Somebody cannot pay to vote for somebody and say you're godfather. Most of those big men talking, if we can tell you how much he gave to
invested
them before they agreed to support Fubara, you marvel. He says it openly. He challenged them openly. He said, I gave you some billion in a contract. I gave you so billion. I gave you so billion. None of them has come to deny it. This is the state fund. So you cannot come to that takes out for Fubara and the man to go and use his own part to fight you back.
It's a rock and a hard place, really, if you look at it this way, of what is going on then, how the executive governor even became governor. That's Fubara himself. It tells you,
You see, everything is process. I know I was a bit disappointed with those who benefited from a people power process that turned out. You know, I always complain of this. It is not fair. We complain of what we're talking about now, but somehow some of you got elected by people power process. Nobody asked you for money. People contributed money for you to become members of reps, members of whatever. Number give the latest state that have done this. Abia State. Abia has been ruled in 1999 by PDP. Then there was a breakaway from PDP into there was this new party then that Ojikalu founded. And this is to bring Oji and the other Oji, Chodo Oji, into power. And then Chodo Oji eventually ended up in PDP, and somehow PDP continued to rule the state. Then the last governor was also PDP. But Abia, for all of these, they didn't have a government house. Aba was like a slum.
Okay, I'm trying to find the party because none is coming to mind at this point.
Yes, was this Free Party founded?
Is it PPA?
PPA. He even contested presidency on that platform. So,
Progressive People Alliance.
Every Abian complained today that Abia is backward. What happened in the last election? Abians defied all odds and voted for an election team who have been trying to be governor from the Fringe Party but have been unsuccessful. You saw how people power brought him to power.
Yeah.
Today we are recording some level of achievement. He has been able to sanitize Aba. He's doing a lot. We are seeing that, okay, some of the things that Aba people wanted, we are seeing him beginning to do it. That is how to rescue your state. If you want to now start taking some between Ojikalu then and Teojo, Ojikalu allowed Teojo to rule now. Teojo himself became a hegemon now over the state. And his son was like a deputy governor. We saw it. So, Fubara himself would have also become like Wiki. He is natural. He's when a lion is born, the father will go and the mother will go and hunt and bring for you, be eating other people's. He will grow. Once he becomes grown and strong, he will pursue that his father.
Exactly.
Take away.
And take over the pride.
And take away his own mother and everybody and starts producing children, and that's how they are. Our positions are like lion kings in the jungle. That's why our country is like a jungle itself. Where life is brutish, nasty, and short. There's no much difference really. So I said, let us put an end to these lion king dynasties across the country. Rivers people develop the discipline. Even if it is PPA, this is PPA, any party you can lay your hands on, go and vote for.
If they can find the right person and the right people in the party, actually.
Stop this opportunity politics of most of them choose Fubara. I think Fubara will dispense more. Since he's one that's holding the pump now. If you're not happy, you are just deceiving yourself. Fubara cannot fight the system that he's part of, especially when that system and the man in that system is a co-governor like Fubara and has the unflinching support of a godfather-like president who is in solidarity with fellow godfathers across the country. You can't beat such a person under this Tinubu administration. That's the truth. Okay,
but then is it possible to say everybody just calm down at this point in time? Fubara is already, quote unquote, elected by the people, recognized by the state and our laws, to saying, well, let him go through, finish his term.
And I'm happy that the governors forum have gone to Supreme Court. You know, as an individual, we can't go straight to Supreme Court. Sure. It will take us 1 million years if we start on the High Court. I hope and pray that the Supreme Court will have the courage. Because in order the rascality in the political space, they shouldn't mess with our constitution until such a time that people that are ready to drive this constitution properly will come. The Supreme Court should not fail this country. Look, it's like trying to tell them what to say. No logic can ever justify any Supreme Court judgment that would ratify this action by the president. That would be the opposite of our democracy. So I'm calling on the Supreme Court to rule this out of order.
All right.
So that no matter what these people do, please let them, at least the letters for constitution should not be violated.
All right then.
So it's not something I can even condone, no. I'm only giving a circumstantial
and
contextual explanation to what is happening in Rivers. I have to rescue Rivers State from this people. Both Fubara, both Wiki, retire them by voting for somebody. Well, bring one teacher from somewhere, put him there as governor. Yes.
We'll see that day in Nigeria. Bola Ombelo Eletu on Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to join virtually, feel free to look us up on YouTube at Nigeria Info Abuja and Facebook at Nigeria Info Abuja also. It's Welly say, may God help my country, Nigeria. Adama Kashim, I see you, sends his regards to Dr. Majeed. And Ibavi Bengba says, I need you to be my mentor concerning politics and history because I'm studying political science and I want someone like you to coach me. I hear you. Hatagu, yes, we got it. It's a PPA. Thank you very much for that. And let's see if we have comment on YouTube. Yes, we do. Jesse Aldu says, nice to see you both again. Onume Anyeka says, spot on every analysis. Keep it up, Dr. Majeed. Aloysius Ikeneri sends his greeting. Nas J, we see you also all the way from Warri in Delta State. And Wisdom says he's listening from Nasarawa State. That is so good to know. So, Dr. Majeed, let's touch on the whole trade war, tariff war that is going on between the United States of America and China. It seems every day there's a new turn, there's a new twist to it. First, it was the U.S. president who came up with his list of reciprocal tariff to different countries who he felt like were not being fair to the United States, and he gave his own bit of a tariff. But China was exceptionally high, about 50%, given the fact that China was high. I think Lesotho also was one of those countries that had a record high. It was so sweeping that even country without human presence were slammed some bit of tariff on them. But it just felt like, all right, this is a face-off between the United States and China at this point in time. I don't want to call it the Cold War, but this is an economic kind of Cold War that is going on between these two quote-unquote superpower at this point in time. And then China didn't back down, retaliated by also, slamming more of their tariff. And now we're seeing the U.S. slamming extra on the tariff. It's gone up as high as 240-something. China warned Trump of tariff shock to its already sluggish economy, even though it grew by 5.4% the first quarter year on year. China is not apparently doing badly. The economy is not stunted in spite of what is going on. And their numbers beat expectation, but it's saying that it covers the period between U.S. tariff and Chinese-made goods. It jumped from 10% to 145%. And then some of the growth could be down to factory ramping up, export before tariff, before it spiked and all of that. So we're just trying to analyze why the Chinese economy is still pretty much stable in spite of all of this. So maybe they preempted all of this and made their move. The China retaliated when Donald Trump put out his tariff. They retaliated with 125% levy for U.S. goods entering China, which Xi Jinping has gone round some of these southeastern Asian countries to say, hey, let's consolidate our business. The United States isn't the only country in the world. And then Donald Trump this time around decided to put a pause, 90 days, on the tariff hike on every other country but China. Which makes it interesting. And then the recent one coming in is that they've even raised the tariff one more time. The latest in the trade war is going as high as 245% increase, which we don't know how China is going to respond to it. But we've seen a lot of the spokesperson for the country and the economy say, we don't care. We're ready to do business with other countries. The US isn't the only country in the world. So what is the implication of what is going on between these two superpowers? What does it mean for even global trade? Would it affect global trade? Is it going to affect us in any way? It's none of our business. We just sit down and observe what is going on.
Okay, it could have global impact because these are the two largest economies in the world. China and America apparently cannot do without each other. In fact, China actually needs America's market. America is one of the most lucrative markets anywhere in the world. In fact, the most lucrative. It has the population, it has the purchasing power by citizens. It's a prosperous, it's a rich country. Yeah. So every country's dream is to have access to the American market. And China also has made a lot of money choosing, trade with America. and supplying the American market to make, the kind of wealth of nations it has made, enough to be able to pull out its way from poverty. But like the Chinese have always maintained too, they have become a global player, not just with America. Now, let's talk about the issue of tariff. Why in the first place is Trump throwing tariffs around? You see, America is recording trade deficit with China in billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. What does that simply mean? America is importing more from China than it's exporting to China.
Yeah.
So truly, if you go to America, most of the goods you see in American shops these days are Chinese made, meaning that is creating jobs. Each time you patronize any Chinese goods, you are creating jobs in China. So that's what Trump essentially sees it as. And Trump is worried that America might lose its number one position in the world if it does not bring back jobs at home. And most importantly, if America does not ramp up production enough to be competitive, America might go into economic oblivion. So he's worried. So his worries are legitimate. Now, there's also another problem that America is facing. America has been having deficit in its financing for many years, running to trillions of dollars. Now, that is, America is spending more than the revenue is getting. This is one of the biggest problems for Trump. And the tariff you are seeing is, in addition to making importation or discouraging importation and allowing and encouraging people to bring their factories back to the US.
Yeah.
Tariffs also a means of raising revenue for the American government. Tariffs. Now, the problem is, who pays these tariffs? Both in America and in China. If Americans impose tariffs on Chinese importation, who's going to pay it? Is it Chinese who is paying it or Americans? Definitely the American importers, those who are importing from China. They will pay the tariff to their own government. So the money they're going to pay to the government is going to come from America, really. And will be borne by the American citizens who are going to patronize those goods.
Yeah, the end consumers.
That's one. So in essence, it's called that you didn't really generate revenue externally as Trump had said he wanted to do. Because it's important that, like if you put tariffs, for example, on importation of phones, and I bring in phones and I have to pay a certain amount of money as tariff to allow the phone to be cleared, I was the one who paid for it. I'll simply put the price, and when you want to buy that phone from me, you're going to pay back that money. And I'll take it back to China and bring in more phones. So, who is really losing and who is really gaining? This one. Secondly, this is their deficit concern.
But perhaps maybe all the end consumers, it will cut their appetite for all of those goods and maybe want to look back at what can we do back home? Do we have locally produced version of this?
The problem is, this will not automatically. You see, that's the other side of the argument. If you now try to bring jobs back home, there are other factors that makes China able to produce and export beyond the tariffs. And I'll come to that. Now, the issue of deficit. Trump is cutting expenditures, trying to, this DOGE, whatever, all the measures he's taking is trying to cut America, which is good. I don't blame him for that. But it's not enough because America is deep in debt. But America owes itself. America doesn't owe anybody. America's deficit is just like your own ways and means in Nigeria. To be able to meet up with their expenditure, even if the revenue that is revenue shop for, they do quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is not so different from ways and means. They simply use their own CBN, simply go to the market to buy up bonds and securities and put money in circulation. So America owns the dollar. It can print the dollar and do whatever it is want to do with it. Fine. So that's the rest. But Trump is saying that this is not sustainable in the long run. It's not that other countries are trying to challenge the dominance of the dollar. So why does that leave us? So his concerns are genuine, but the methodology. Now, China, on the other hand, is unmoved, yes. Not because the tariffs will not necessarily hurt them, but because China knows that beyond tariffs, there are other things they put in place to make their export price competitive in the global market. To such an extent that you may not be able to beat China at it. They know what they have done. And what is it that they have done? Let me just tell you in summary what's happening. This is the triumph of state capitalism over entrepreneurial capitalism. You see, unlike America, China is a state capitalist country. Beyond tariff, what makes things cheap in China, Chinese exports cheap, is because unlike American producers, who have to take commercial bank loans, and sometimes they get loans from government though, but they still got to take commercial bank loans at, even though it's a single-digit interest rate, and they pay taxes and all of that. Chinese entrepreneurs don't have to go through that rigor. They have government capital waiting at 0% interest rate, with a moratorium of 10 years to repay back, waiting for them to go into manufacturing. Some of this investment from the government is now converted into dividends for government itself. So if you export and make gain, government gets, you get. If you make losses, government also share losses with you. State capitalism. That is why most of the products in China, including Hisense, as common as Hisense you see, is owned by the Chinese government. So for every of this product you sell, the entrepreneur in China, who is a co-partner in this enterprise, makes his own money. So China has a class of billionaires today. Imagine. Then it also creates jobs in those factories at home because they are supplying the entire globe this product. Thirdly, the government, and most importantly, the government has its own share from this money. That is why, unlike America, China is having the largest dollar reserves in the world. Earned dollars, not printed one. One they earn from foreign trade at $3.3 trillion. While America owns dollar that is printing it has less than $1 trillion in its foreign reserves. About $800 million. That is, as we speak, China has more dollar than America because of this system of trade. America may not, I know it will be difficult. It's like it's like converting somebody from one religion to the other. It's like converting Saudi Arabia people now to Christians or converting Romans to Muslims. It will be difficult for America to adopt this Chinese model. But it's a reality that is staring them in the face.
I mean, Chinese, their model has been consistent. I was going a bit through their 100-year plan of becoming global superpower. These people are consistently
Majeed Dahiru have always advocated for Nigeria and then developing the economy. Let me tell you, Chinese model is what European countries are actually doing too, except the UK. All the European countries are actually adopted. It's the Chinese model that they have been using that the Chinese actually adopted and modified and made it more Chinese. You see, entrepreneurial capitalism cannot create wealth for any country. America is beginning to see the adverse effect of that. What do I mean? America has all the big companies in the world, from Google to YouTube to Facebook, but these are individual companies. The billions and the billions you hear them declare as profit goes to somebody's pocket. And if that's the way around some of the tax laws, he may not pay tax. The question is, where does American government make money from to continue to fund services? They must tax people. They must do this and do that. Now, they want to compare, for example, let's say Huawei is Chinese government owned. Google is an individual that owns it in America, or X. If Huawei makes $100 million per annum, which they make far more than that anyway, that money goes straight into the Chinese government coffers. But if the same Google makes $100 million, they only pay a fraction of that money as tax to the government. Right? So the question is, where is America really going to get monies from to crash its deficit? Trump is trying to do it through tariff. It won't work. Because tariff, if it becomes it will discourage consumer consumption. Yeah. It will send the country probably to depression because people don't be able to afford monies for basics. It will take mid-term and long-term solutions to restart manufacturing in America on the scale that compared to China. It's not something that can happen in 4 years. Right? So, for me, why Trump may have the intention is one intention. I like somebody who wants to save his country. But the other one, he has suspended for 90 days and has now faced China. Trump, what China is doing is something America must do too. You must be able to give incentives. America is trying, I mean, they're still trying, but two things are missing. China gives far more incentive to the manufacturer than America is willing to give. Energy in China is almost at no cost.
But isn't it also a function of the fact that they run some sort of communist system where it's basically the state run? So the concession is to self, to see how they are boosting production America, because that's their target.
Copy a thing or two from that playbook because it has proven to work more than yours.
And Dr. Majeed, what caused the Cold War between the US and USSR is also about the playbooks that they are going to run global economy.
Converting from Islam to Christianity or Islam to Islam. It's not difficult for America.
I see that.
Now, what China simply did, what Europe did, was after the Second World War, European countries realized that no country can thrive entirely on entrepreneurial capitalism. As those of them that we are on this other side, Western Bloc, we're trying to jeer. So it was like a mixed economy. So Germans call it social capitalism. Government will be present in certain critical sectors to kickstart it. Because if you are not there, a project man does not have interest in coming there. You can't force him to come there. So all of your mineral resources in Nigeria will remain desolate, or at best being mined by illegal miners. Because those that are having interest in it will not come, because it's not. Why should I come and invest $1 billion in a mine in Sekogi when I can put $100 million in a banking stock and sit down in my pressure suit in Transcorp and puff my cigar?
Hopefully not in CBEX, because that one has gone under for those.
No. I'll tell the commercial bank. I'm just saying. So these are the things. A government knows that one, he has a duty to create work for the people, to create employment, to create revenue for government. So they will be going to things that ordinarily you may not be interested in going into. So China has as small as bakery. There's a bakery in Lokoja before the Garaja Bridge. The Chinese come and get a bakery for Lokoja.
No, they have presence all over Africa. They have corner shops in some African countries.
You know water? The water is cheap. I don't want to call it.
No, you don't need to call it. Yeah, definitely.
It's the cheapest in the market. I don't know that this economy does not affect their price because you can't compete with them. That's how they be able to grow their wealth. America has not done this. Germany has done this. Germany, as late as 2020, nationalized some oil companies that took it over as government. Germany is ready for government. Saudi, for example, I keep making that example, have almost all of these companies that are creating value and bringing in revenue. So if you look at the Saudi, for example, they don't have company computers, they don't have personal computers, they only pay VAT. Why was Dubai so cheap for people to import and export from? Dubai don't have tariff for importation and exportation. They don't. If you buy, it's tariff-free, duty-free, nothing. So how are they thriving? Why does America not think it has to put high tariff?
But they started paying a bit of VAT now.
No VAT on consumption, but no duty. What I'm saying is, it's to tell a country can develop without duty, without even tax, because the company itself, the country is doing business. It owns businesses. If Nigeria today opens a fleet of bakeries across West Africa, why should it be connected to some people that says where he can make money from his bread that he's selling in Ghana and Togo and said alone? So the lesson for us as Nigeria, for me, it's not so much about if it's a lesson. Let us now realize that state capitalism is triumphing over international capitalism. You see, in the days of Soviet Union, it was communism. It wasn't state capitalism. It was communism. That's the difference. Communism wasn't business-like. It's like, let us, for everyone according to their ability and to go back to their, according to their need. That's what China is doing. China's government is simply investing and creating value, making money, and using that money to service education, health, rural infrastructure. Without burdening the people so much with tax. That's what Chinese government is doing. That's what German government has been doing. That's what all Nordic countries, the Norways of this world, the Switzerland, they all have state-run enterprises in hundreds that brings in revenue.
All right.
America does not have. So this has exposed its underbelly. That look, you can have billionaires, but the country will be poor. Something that is also affecting UK. But in the case of UK and America, they have the pounds as far as UK. So have dollar, they can print it now to solve problem and call it deficit. As well as against themselves. That's why Nigeria is perpetually borrowing, perpetually taxing people, and perpetually sorrowing, because there is, among the NNPC, the government of Nigeria has not realized, and the state governments have not realized that you must copy the Chinese playbook. You see, I was excited last week. Police posited on this program that one way to banish illegal mining in Nigeria is for state government to establish companies that are going to mining. Right? I also was happy when I learned that Kogi State government established a company now, in a state mining company, and they have procured mining equipment. And they've secured 15 licenses for the various solid minerals in the state, including lithium, gold, and other, from Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals. And right now, they are training 20,000 youths to be employed into this company as legal miners. So you don't have to go and start mining illegal. Just come and apply for employment and you get it.
All right.
Every state of the Federation of Nigeria must make such kind of investment in their own areas of comparative advantage. If it's agriculture, please go and do it.
All right.
Even if it's hotel, go and be building hotel. Let us come to your state to swim and pay you. Do something. That's what China has done. That America today is quite difficult to beat China to this game.
Well, it doesn't look like China is feeling the heat, and we'll get to see how it pans out with this new tariff hike coming from the United States. Lots of comment. Abuja Parrot says, I will continue to say it. Minister Wike alone, with all his godsons and rivers, can't fight a sitting governor, or because Fubara is part of the system and the president himself is a godfather.